Hi guys, welcome to Nordic Stitches podcast episode 1. This is nerve-wracking. I have had another YouTube channel called Knit and Crochet where I did a lot of vlogging, and I thought this was going to be a piece of cake. It's not. I have show notes laying in front of me. I have a cup of tea. I should have had something to wipe my forehead, but it's going to be good. So bear with me through this episode where I introduce myself and the pinpoints on what you can expect from future episodes. Alright, so me. I'm Lily. I'm the designer and creator of Nordic Stitches. I am bringing this podcast to you all the way from Norway, Scandinavia, and I live here with a cat, which you probably will be hearing some sounds from in the background from time to time. Places where you can find me. I'm on Facebook, Ravelry, Snapchat, Instagram. I have my own website, and of course here on YouTube. Let's start with the YouTube channel. You can subscribe to this YouTube channel and get email notifications when I upload a video, and that way you won't miss out on future episodes. My website is my hub. I will be releasing the website today as I upload this video, so that is very exciting. I've been working on it and trying to actually publish it for a month now, so I'm actually getting kind of antsy. So on my website there will be podcast show notes, there will be contact information, you know, stuff like that. You should really go check it out. I'm really happy with it. And on Facebook I have 3 alternatives. One is a Lily designer page. I'll just post updates in there and, you know, random designer page stuff. And then there's the Nordic Stitches Facebook group, which is an international Facebook group where we do everything in English. And then there's the Nordic Stitches Facebook group Scandinavia. In there you can communicate in Norwegian, Swedish and Danish, no problem. So if you are a little bit unsure about communicating in English, that alternative really is there for you, and you know, why not? I'm Scandinavian after all. Instagram, I love Instagram. I post sneak peeks in there and I interact with my followers. If I get comments, I like pictures, you can go see what I like, and yeah, all that jazz. Instagram is great. You can also follow me on Snapchat, but in there it's follow only. I won't be friending you back in there or anything like that, because it is sort of a private Snapchat. So even though it's called Nordic Stitches, you will not gain access to anything but the my story in there. And in there, as well as on, you know, Instagram, I post stuff like sneak peeks and this is what I'm doing today. Here's a cup of coffee. Totally random pictures. So if you're interested in that, I'm also on Snapchat. Everything and anyone I mention in any of my podcasts will be linked in the show notes. The show notes will be written out on my website. I'll be linking to the website and the show notes down below. And I'll be linking to all my social media down below. But if there's anything else you want to see that I mention in this podcast, make sure that you... My cat is killing my floor mat again. She loves doing that. And again, if there's anything else that you hear me speak about here in the podcast, you need to go to the podcast show notes on my website to see what... to find the links. Okay, so what I plan to talk about for the podcast, yarn. Pretty self-explanatory. Yeah, I have a huge stash that I'm destashing right now. I'm giving away a lot of yarn and I'm throwing away scraps. Yeah, I'm really cleaning it up because it's yarn in there that I have had for years and not using. So, time to make space for something new. The living room wall is decorated with, sorry if that made anyone sick, it's decorated. So I actually have yarn decoration in my living room. Totally normal. Anyway, so I'll be talking about yarn, not only from Norway, not store-bought only. I'll be talking about yarn from all over the world, hand-dyed, indie-dyed, anything yarn related. I will discuss it in here. I love yarn. That's just the way I roll. I'll be talking about finished projects, if there are any. I'll be talking about works in progress, which there always seems to be something off. I try not to overdo the the works in progress, but sometimes there's a lot. This week there's not, because I just finished a project that I can show you. It's a design that will coming up for sale in a week or two. So that's laying flat to dry right now. I'll be discussing the process of a designer designs I'm want to make. I'll be discussing and mentioning designs that I've found from other people that I want to make. And I'll also be talking about sewing and coloring and crocheting and reading books and stuff like that in the random notes, because I also do all those things. And I'll be mentioning events. There are events coming for Nordic Stitches. I can't reveal everything to you right now, but I will show you yarn that is related later on in the podcast. Be excited. I sure am. It will be a Christmas event, I can say that much. I keep looking at the show notes because I am first time using show notes, so please excuse me. Yeah, and I'll be putting in random stuff, maybe video clips or pictures or stuff like that, you know, just happens during a week. I plan on posting podcasts Fridays, night time, my time. So I live in Norway, so I am in Central European time, ECT, CET. There's so many letters out there, it all gets me all confused. Anyway, I'll put it down below so that you know exactly when you can expect the podcast to air where you are. But yeah, so my Friday evening. So I'm filming this during the day because really that is the best lighting time for me, because my living room doesn't look like it right now, but it's pretty dark, so I can't do filming at night. Okay, so, and I'll also in my podcasts be talking about other podcasts. Right now I'm in the process of catching up with a handful. So I won't be mentioning a lot of podcasts right now. I'll mention two. I am listening into Very Pink Knit's podcast, which I love. That woman is amazing. She seems to know everything, yeah. And she's got this humor that you just gotta love. I'll be linking that, of course. And then there's the Knitting Expat podcast. A very down-to-earth, very fun and loving and caring person here on YouTube having video podcasts like me. I've been watching her podcasts on high speed on like 1.5 and almost 2 times, because she's got over 70 episodes out, and I for some reason thought it would be a good idea to start at episode 1, so yeah, that's taking a while. But I'm loving what I'm seeing, so I can already recommend that to you if you haven't checked her out already. I would appreciate it if you would let me know if there's any podcast you would recommend. Drop a comment down below or send me a PM on my designer page on Facebook or on Ravelry. Okay, so a little more about me. I'm 30. As I said, I live in Norway. I live in mid-Norway. I live with a cat, and I love yarn. I really do. I really love yarn. It's all you need is yarn. I have known how to knit for more than 20 years. I remember looking at what I imagined was supposed to be a scarf and thinking, with dropped stitches and big gaps and added stitches and decreased stitches. I have no idea how I did it, but I remember that picture very vividly. From the point where I learned to knit to the point where I actually needed to knit, there's a huge gap of time. A little over well, it's closing in on 11 years now, so I've been knitting very actively for more than a decade now. I was living in a very shabby apartment above a train station. Isolation was probably eaten up by rats many years ago. And winter came and I had more than 1 centimeter of ice on the inside of my kitchen windows. Needless to say, I was cold to the bone. I walked around with my duvets covering me and blankets and, you know, everything. And then I realized I don't have winter hats, leggings, and scarves. If you've ever been to Norway or you live in any country in the Northern Hemisphere, you realize, what? Yeah. So I went to the grocery store because it's pretty common here that grocery stores have yarn. So I went to the grocery store and I bought 3 shades of green woolen yarn. At that point, I knew how to cast on, knit the knit stitch, knit the purl stitch, and bind off. That's all I knew. And I had no idea how to follow a pattern, so I had to wing it. So I winged up a beanie, leg warmers, and a very long scarf in 3 shades of green. So basically 3 shades of green kept me warm for 2 months, because January and February here are insanely cold at places, at some places. We're talking colder than a deep freezer. Yeah, colder. Yeah, so I basically started to knit because I had to, not because I wanted to or were inspired or inspired by anything or anyone. So I started out because I was cold. I've been knitting ever since, so as bad as it was, I'm still happy that it happened because, you know, I'm a happy knitter today. And then there's the, yeah, alright, so I need to take a short break and feed my cat because she's sitting like this on the floor. Yeah, I'll be right back. Okay, so the cat is fed, happy, and I'm back. What was I saying? Yeah, I was talking about my starting up to knit. I remember there's one episode before the winter that I just mentioned that I really want to discuss, because it is proof that anybody can learn to knit. My mom loves this story. She loves reminiscing about it and, you know, giving me the look. For some reason, the school decided we were going to knit socks. This was junior high. I was in 9th grade. I believe it was in 9th grade. Stop. I believe I was in 9th grade. And, oh my goodness. The heel. Oh my goodness, the heel. I don't know how long I was fiddling with this heel and trying to get the heel, because the teacher didn't explain very much. She said, you do this and you do that and voila, you got a heel. That easy. It's not really for anybody that has not knitted for 10 years or is 14, 15 years old necessarily. So I asked my mom, would you please teach me how to knit this heel? And she did almost the same thing as the teacher. You do this, you do that, and voila, you have a heel. But she threw in a couple of more, you do this, and a couple more, you do that, and voila, voila, you have a heel. So I was none the wiser really, but I remember sitting there, not understanding, because I am the person that needs step-by-step instructions. Yeah, take this stitch and do that, take this stitch and do that, and I've always been like that. I will forever be like that. It's all right, but some people don't explain it very stitch by stitch, and neither my teacher or my mom really did that. And I can understand that some people find it difficult to do it very, very petite when they describe something, taking one step at a time, because this is the way it's always been done. Well, I remember the racing, heated anger in here because when I fiddle with things for too long, I start feeling stupid. And when I start feeling stupid, I get really angry. It's not an emotion that I handle very well. And I was sitting there and I was fiddling with the sock or the heel. And I had DPNs all over the place and yarn all over the place. At least it felt like it right there. I felt like a tangled mess. I felt like I had yarn all over the place. And it just boiled up to the point where I take the sock with the yarn hanging to it and the DPN still attached, and I just threw it across the room while screaming at it, "I hate you! I seriously hate you!" While the sock flew past my mom's amused and pretty scared eyes, and I kept thinking to myself, I will never, ever knit again. Yeah, I had to eat my words. But I seriously hated that sock. I just really hated that sock. I don't think I really finished it, because I can't remember. I blocked it out. I really wish that I had finished it and I've taken care of it, because it would be, you know, framed on the wall. It really would. So that is the knitting story of, that's the knitting story of the heel. I knit socks today. I don't mind knitting socks. It's not the thing that I like the most, but I don't mind it. It flies by when I do it today. My stepmom and my dad visited this summer, and and my stepmom, she, as my mom, she pointed out, but you didn't really like to knit. And then she also threw in, and now look at what you're making. So I was like, thank you, thank you, thank you. So if I can, anybody can, because I started out with dropping stitches and decreasing and increasing, not really turning into anything, to throwing a sock through the room to where I am today. So it is possible. So if you want to learn to knit, learn to knit. I've also crocheted for a while. I've been crocheting for 2.5 years almost now. I learned to crochet 1st of May 2014. And the date is frozen to my mind because the 2nd of May I managed to, I was redecorating a table and it didn't go very well with my hand. So I ended up hurting my hand pretty badly, not being able to knit. And I've been knitting for so long that I feel naked without knitting needles. Seriously, I feel like there's something missing. I should be wearing something when I'm not knitting. So when I learned to crochet 1st of May, I was sort of saved because I could use the one hand that wasn't hurt and stabilize the work with the one that was hurt. So I managed to crochet. And I've also framed and taken very good care of my very first ever crochet project, which is a granny square in, I believe, 3 colors. It's far from perfect, but it's there. And it's like a reminder that this is where it actually started, because when I started crocheting, it's like I was pushing a button. I was all of a sudden getting ideas for knitting patterns and crochet patterns, and it's just opened up a whole new world for me for some reason. And that's when I started playing around with several types of designs. I'm just going to remove the tea bag. I think the tea is cold enough now for me to drink it. I don't like warm tea. I like it lukewarm. I've been trying to drink tea forever. I bought a lot of tea to dye yarn with, and I just never got around to dyeing the yarn. So I figured I might as well try and like tea. It's not going very well, but I'm trying to be a sophisticated adult. Okay. Out of crochet and knit, I favorize, is that the word, favorize? Knitting. I like to crochet, and I think it's amazing all the creations you can make with crochet, but knitting really, in my opinion, is prettier. It's just the way it is. And especially for aisle knitting, where you have the color works and stuff like that, it's the next pattern. I will be releasing patterns today, but the patterns upcoming will be a lot of Fair Isle work, because I just love playing around with several colors and patterns and stuff like that. So be prepared. Fair Isle projects coming up. I think I've been designing more than a couple of years, 2-3 years, because when my mom, there's 2 lessons that I'm very thankful for. The one is my mom teaching me to read patterns. And I got dyscalculia. Numbers and me, we aren't friends. So designing for me takes a very long time. Because I actually knit the thing, I write out the pattern, and then I knit the thing again. I'll be taking up test knitters for another podcast, but it's coming up. I started noticing in the patterns mistakes. And when you have dyscalculia, you're really focused on the numbers, and you sit there with a calculator and you do the numbers, and I was so bummed because I was going to knit a baby outfit, a suit with pants and, you know, like a one piece with buttons down. If there's an English word for that, just, you know, drop a comment down below. And I got to, I believe it was up here. You can show it, but I'm pointing somewhere over the mid part of the waist. And I was getting closer to starting to, you know, cast off the stitches for the arms, and woo, I was back to the heel again. I was so furious because I sat there and I read the pattern and I counted my stitches and everything was all right, but there was something missing in the pattern that, you know, didn't explain to me how to go on from that point. I brought the pattern up to my mom and she was like, yeah, you're right, there's a lot of stuff missing here. So it ended up with me winging it again. And from that point, I've come across a lot of patterns with a lot of mistakes. And I'm not saying that my patterns are completely flawless. There probably will always be some kind of error, misspellings, for instance, because, you know, my native language is Norwegian. But, you know, smaller stuff. But I don't think, and please feel free to email me if you ever find a big error or several errors in a pattern, because I would really like to know, because people sitting the way that I did right back then, I don't feel like doing that to anybody. So it ended up with me winging it. The thing came out very great, you know, the suit came out very great, and yeah, I've been doing that to a whole lot of patterns actually. In 2007, a year after the almost freezing to death winter, I knitted my first sweater. I have a picture of it somewhere, but I don't have the sweater because it got stained. A stain that I couldn't get off, not even with Vanish. So that sweater sadly doesn't exist anymore, but I got pretty much hooked then. I've been knitting every single day since then. Okay, so new things going on with this channel and everything that has to do with Nordic stitches. I will be removing the crochet hook from my logo. The logo is new. I've been having it done for a few days now. I had to put my focus on one thing because I am a one woman operation, at least for the time being. I can't do it all. And I struggle with fibromyalgia, which is a rheumatic pain disorder. And because of that, I am functioning like half a person in my good days. So I had to, you know, stop and think. I can't do it all. So it ended up with me taking the crochet hook away from my logo and putting in an extra knitting needle instead. I will be focusing on knitting from now on, designing knitting and knitting patterns. I will crochet, of course I will. And sometimes I will bring you a crochet pattern too. But I'm just going to say it right now. I'm a knitting designer. That comes so natural to me, and ideas flow in so much that I actually sleep with a writing pad and a pencil under my pillow. Yeah. I'm sorry if this isn't living up to your expectations, but I have to keep in mind that I'm doing all this on my own, at least for now. So it will benefit both me and you for me to cut out crochet from the designer part and bringing you pattern part and stuff like that. If you want me to film a crochet video, for example, a technique or texture, I can do that. Of course I can do that. But I will not sit here and say that, oh, tomorrow I'm going to start a crochet design, because apparently that's not how my mind works. Alright, so that was a whole lot of yapping about probably a whole lot of nothing, but at least I've introduced myself. I'm a talker. Yeah, over to whips. Works in progress. I have a few. So first, I have 2 works in progress right now because I finished one, as I mentioned earlier in the podcast. I finished one last night. It's laying flat to dry. And I won't show it to you because it's a pattern that's coming for sale in not too many days, I hope. I have one crochet project ongoing right now. It's my own design. And I'm going to mention a couple of things about this design. Originally, it is a coaster pattern that I designed when I had my old YouTube channel. My cat attacking the table. Completely normal. But now I'm making them in crochet thread with hook size 1.5 millimeters. See how thin that is? Yeah. The idea of this is to have first make a lot of many of these tiny coasters, and then turn them into squares, and then sewing them all together in a very long, hopefully very long, rectangular shawl that I can, you know, wrap and be cozy in. I have 23 of them right now, and this is just a very long ongoing project. I do this when I have nothing else to do, which is basically almost never. So I plan on making all the centers with the pink and then mixing in a whole lot of colors and finishing it off with white. That is the plan. Before I go on to work in progress number 2, I want to mention there are some errors in the pattern. This was the Lily coaster square pattern. There are some errors. I wasn't aware of this, and very many people, several hundred people, have downloaded this pattern and not informed me. And I'm so sorry. Somebody texted me on Facebook on my designer page telling me there's errors. She contacted me and told me there was an error, which I appreciate. I really do appreciate it. It means that people care about my patterns and they want to make what I designed. And as I said earlier, I'm not perfect. And yeah. And then she contacted me again and said there were several more errors. I had missed out a couple of chains here and there, so I'm writing it out today, hopefully, if I can find the time to do it. So there will be an updated version again to my Lily Coaster Square pattern. Also, if you find typos in my patterns, please, if the word is understandable, just overlook it. If it happens a whole lot of times during the pattern, let me know, because I won't be offended by you telling me. Native Norwegian here. And I would appreciate it if you told me that I was doing something wrong, word-wise, you know, language-wise. Okay, so that was that. Now, this next work in progress has been going on for a while. It started out very well because it's a poncho knitted from here and down. I will link you to the pattern. It's a paid-for pattern by Very Pink Knits on Ravelry. You can also find it through our website, but I'm going to link you to Ravelry. And for some reason, I decided I wanted to do this in cotton yarn, because I have had this yarn in my stash since last summer, because I was under the impression that I wanted to make a summer top of this yarn, which of course I never did. So I bought the yarn, and now she's killing the mat again. As I said, it's a neck down patterned poncho. So I'm tangled. I broke my needle. It was a very old needle. I have no idea what brand it was even. It was just a cheap needle that I bought in a store once. And this is now how far I've gotten. Let's see if I can. So it's getting very pretty with the glittery yarn. And it has this, we call this braids here. This is braiding. This is braid knitting in Norwegian. And I know it's called cables, but you know, it looks like braids. I really want to adapt the braid into the English. So yeah, this is how far I've gotten. So I bought this new needle because it says I broke the one that was on. And I bought Cubics Knit Pro, also known as Knitter's Pride. It's the same brand, just two different names. God only knows why. Cubic needles. I have no idea what the man has done to the cat, but she's killing it real good. I love cubic needles. I had no idea how much I needed cubic needles. So I'm actually looking for a set, both with DPNs and both with interchangeable circulars. So if you know of a light metal cubic set that is metal, that is nickel friendly, because nickel allergic very much. I have no idea how many stitches I've got on here right now, but when I went to buy the cubic needle, it's 3.5 millimeters. When I went to buy the needle, I decided that I wanted a longer needle because it was really getting scrunched up on my 80 centimeter needle. This is 100 centimeters, which is a meter. These needles and this yarn are not friends, because when you knit, you just want to pull up the yarn like this to keep going, but I have to actually move the yarn around down here, so it's taking forever. I have no idea if it is the cable or if it is the fact that it's getting heavy. I have no idea. I've never knitted a poncho before. But I want to mention the yarn. As you can see, it has silver threads in it, which, you know, is a pretty cool effect. Can you focus for me, please? Yeah, it's a cool effect, no doubt, but the silver threads tend to break a lot, and you don't notice until you've knitted a very long way past them. The yarn is Surder or Siridar, as I would probably say, Ella. It is a Summer Luxe Edition blended DK yarn. When it comes to yarn weight, I always measure in gauge. We do that here, we measure in gauge, because that way you know exactly what needle you're going for. I can't say lace weight and go to the store and just pick it out. I always watch for this information. Needles and hook and how many rows and stitches per 10 centimeters, which is, by the way, 2 inches. So I will try, when I mention yarn in my podcasts, to put up on screen what kind of weight that yarn is, because I cannot memorize it all, because there's so many different ways to talk about yarn weight that it gets me all confused. So I'm going to stick to telling you the gauge, what needles are recommended, and stuff like that. So to go back to the yarn information here, this is a cotton yarn. It's 126 meters, and some wrappings actually have both meters and yards and grams and ounces, so in those cases I will mention both. This is 126 meters per skein, 50 grams, or in yards that is 138 approximately. It even says approximately here. It's 49% cotton, 48% acrylic, and 3% polyester, and the polyester then being the silver sparkly thread. It's made in England, UK. It's machine washable at 40 degrees Celsius on wool cycle. Not many people know this, or at least as far as I know. When you wash your cotton items, use wool wash. Apparently, that is very nice for the cotton too. I always do that now, and my projects always come out very nice. Just to put it out there, wool wash for cotton. Very great. It's a 4mm knitting needles yarn. In the UK, that is 8. In the United States of America, that is a 6. Crochet hook 4mm. In the UK, that is an 8. In the United States of America, it's the letter F or the number 5. See? It's just, I really wish that everything yarn related had an international language. It would be so much easier. The stitch, the gauge for this yarn is 28 rows times 22 stitches in stockinette. Is 4 by 4 inches or 10 by 10 centimeters. It's machine washable and it does not like to be ironed. Anyway, so that's that. Those are my ongoing projects at the moment. Later today I'll be releasing knitting patterns based on a sock. It will be a paid for pattern, but it will be very cheap. You will get 2 items in one pattern. Item number 1, a beanie. This is a very tight fitted beanie. So if you want it bigger, just go up a needle size, maybe even thicker yarn. And this is the texture of it. And to match, we have ourselves some wrist warmers. Ta-da! Pretty, huh? I love this texture so much. It has a 3D effect to it. It's very warm in here right now because I have my electric heater on because fall is coming. But yeah, so there will be a beanie pattern and wrist warmers in the same PDF. And I have decided the price for it, but I can't remember right now because it's on Ravelry. It's ready for me to publish. Those are based on the Bosnian sock. So I've named these the Bosnian forest beanie and wrist warmers. In Norwegian, I de bosniske skoger, lue og pulsvarmere. So if you have no idea what I just said, I just say the same thing in Norwegian, just so that people will know what to look for in the Facebook groups when I link the patterns to Ravelry. As I mentioned earlier in the podcast, there will be a Christmas event for Nordic Stitches. I will not say what that event will be just yet. I will be releasing that information on Halloween. So if I'm not scheduled for a podcast on Halloween, I will make an extra podcast on Halloween. Maybe even with paint on my face, who knows. How cute is that? There's some mini glitter skeins. I bought this from a Swedish store, online store. I will link that in the podcast show notes. This yarn is 100% polyester. It's an 8-gram skein, super tiny. It's 64 meters in one tiny skein, and it recommends needles number 3mm. Also recommends hand wash. Yeah, so that's that. I have 4 of each. I think I may need more, but I'm going to start testing the patterns and writing out the patterns now-ish. Sometime around these days. I have the charts ready because there will be charts, because charts it's a row by row description, but it takes less paper. So if you don't know how to read charts, I can definitely make a video on how to read charts, because it really is easier than it looks, and a lot of people make it sound a little bit more difficult than it actually is, but it's really just a piece of cake. And if you have sticky notes or some kind of, what do you call it in English? Magnet board that you have magnets on, you can use the magnet rulers to, you know, follow the lines as you go. I promise it's easier. So if you need me to make a video on how to read knitting charts before this event, please let me know in the comments down below, and I will make sure to film that for you. That was that, a little teaser. Next week there will be some whips, sock whips. I mentioned her podcast earlier. Mina from the Knitting Expat podcast here on YouTube. She also designs patterns. She's a sock knitter. I'm telling you, she knits socks like I've never seen before. And I've purchased, so I'm just going to show you the front. I've purchased 4 patterns, and I'm going to enter socks in her Ravelry group. She's got this thread. I think it's a competition. I don't know. I'm just doing it for fun. But anyway, I bought this pattern. I don't know if you can see the texture quite clearly, but it's sock number 5, Meadow Socks by Mina Phillip, and Staggered Path Socks by Mina Phillip. Rainbows are pretty. I like rainbows. I prefer the pastel rainbow, but you know, rainbows. And then there's the Cobblestone Sock. And a train is coming. Did I not mention that the railway is right there? Like maybe 20 meters away from my house. It is. So sometimes I may clip out a goods train or something, because those are really long and really heavy and make a whole lot of noise. Anyway, the last pattern that I bought is this. It's called Riverbend Socks. And I really am liking the texture to this one. Pretty. Anyway, I asked in her thread if ankle socks are okay, because for some reason I thought it very clever to buy wood of each color for this skein, for this yarn. 1 skein in each color. And it's the Drops Fable print. So I only have 50 grams of each. And I'm thinking that if I maybe take a yarn winder, or I don't have a yarn winder, I use a toilet roll. Anyway, if I divide this in 2 by the help of a kitchen scale, which by the way is a trick I learned from Mary Pink Knits, you really need to go check out her YouTube channel if you haven't already. Divide every skein in 2 so that I know exactly how much I can use for the second sock, and write down. But I asked if it was okay for me to enter ankle socks in there, and it was. So those will be ankle socks, probably with contrasting color on the toe and heel. Then there's some sock yarn that I've had for last summer. I got a whole lot of yarn I really never used. Yeah, so it's not only the cotton yarn, but it's also sock yarn. And I'm really loving the one in the middle. I have 2 skeins of each of these, so I'm thinking that those will actually be socks with cuffs and all. So next week I will be showing off probably some ankle socks that are finished, if I manage to do that, and some works in progress socks. Yeah, I think that is about it for this time, except for that I also color. My favorite colorist, or drawer artist, I should say, is Johanna Basford. Is she Irish? If that is offending anybody, I'm so sorry. I think she's Irish, I don't know. She may be British. She has made a very fine variation of coloring books, but this year ooh boy, this year. She's also made coloring postcards, which I never get my hands on because I live in Norway. And so far, I have yet to see a store actually take it in. She's made calendars this year, wall calendars and desk calendars and stuff like that. But she's also made cell phone cases. So I bought the case and the drawings for the case. So it comes like this. It's a plastic case with her name on it, Joanna Basford. And then there's the rubber extra protective holder right there. And it has gold buttons, of course. And then there's Lost Ocean, which so far, and Magical Jungle are my favorite books. Tiny little details. I love tiny little details. Okay, so the 5 designs that comes in the cell phone case Lost Ocean edition are mermaids. Pretty cool. Fishies. Some fishies and seagrass. And the paper for these are not white. It's some sort of old yellowish to it, and I love that. Goes very well with the gold buttons on the edge here and the writing. And I am very excited about this one because it's tiny anemones. Anemones? Pretty. And then there is more fishies. And then there's an anchor. So hopefully I will be doing some coloring this weekend. So plans for next week are putting more designs on my needle and writing out several patterns. Go a little hiking with my brother. If I can hike, I have a foot that's bugging me. My doctor told me not to go hiking, so I'm trying to not do that. I really love hiking, so that is a problem. What else? Try to knit some more on the Poncho. I fear it's going to be one of those I'm going to work for that forever projects. So yeah, that's it. I think I'm about to wrap up my first podcast. I do believe it has been going on forever compared to what I was expecting of myself today. And I hope that I didn't put anybody into sleeping mode. And again, if you like what you see, subscribe so that you don't miss out on future episodes. And thank you so much for watching. Whoever you are, wherever you are, be kind, be good, and have a nice day. Until next time, happy stitching. Bye.
Hva gjør du? Drepte du matta mi? Tar du det?